Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. We haven't done a Top 10 Song show in a while, and why not do the first one in a bit on another Viewer Appreciation Day. Welcome, Dawn, who has been a faithful watcher of Sea of Tranquility for a long time. She's got some of the best comments in the comments forum down below all the time. I love reading her comments and getting into discussions with her. So I figured I'd ask Dawn to come on the show to do a topic that means a lot to the both of us. And today we are going to tackle our 10 favorite songs sung by the man himself, Mr. Ronnie James Dio. So Dawn, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me, Pete. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. Pleasure's all mine. It's great when you have like dialogue with people in the comments section of these videos for so many months and years, and then you actually get to kind of meet them, not really in person, but meet them in this weird thing we call the internet and Zoom technology and all that kind of stuff. But Dawn is actually, into a lot of the stuff that we cover here on the channel, specifically like the classic, hard rock and metal bands and whatnot. So Dawn was all for talking about Ronnie James Dio. And so basically what we're doing today, on the channel, we've already done like top 10 songs of Sabbath and the Dio band and Rainbow and all that kind of stuff. But we've never actually said, all right, how about we do a top 10 songs of everything that Ronnie ever sang in? Okay, so it's all up for grabs. It could be on one of the Dio albums, Sabbath, Rainbow, Hearing Aid, wherever he appeared, doesn't matter. It's all fair game. So we've each picked out our 10 favorites. I guess I'm pretty happy with my order. I don't know, the order, I don't really care about the songs. Those are the songs. I'm sure you probably agree. And before we get started with Dawn's number 10, I want to say great collection of assorted basses and axes behind you there. Love it, love it, love it. Very cool.
Thanks.
Very cool. So Dawn's going to kick us off with her number 10.
Okay, my number 10 comes off of the Holy Diver album, and it is Rainbow in the Dark. That's probably the second Dio song I ever heard. The first song I ever heard was Holy Diver. And I've liked this song my entire life. I know a lot of people say that it's a bit too poppy or commercial, but if you know that Holy Diver album inside and out, that's not the pop tune on it. Caught in the Middle is. That's the one with the hooks galore. And I even like that. It's a good melodic hard rock song. But back to Rainbow in the Dark. I just think this is a great song. It has an uplifting message. I've said this in the comments, and I probably sound like a weirdo, but he's not really talking about a rainbow in the dark. He's talking about something special that cannot be seen or appreciated because light has not been shown upon it. And I swear I think this song is about himself because of his musical past and how he had some bad circumstances with his first couple bands. But I think a lot of his fans, that message resonates with them. And a lot of Dio fans, growing up, they weren't the football players. They weren't the prom queens. These are people who can appreciate a message like that. And he's always been someone who kind of stuck up for the underdog, in my mind, growing up listening to him. So I love the message for that reason. But musically, he hits the stage. Now, this was my foray into Dio. I didn't know Dio from any other band because of my age, but he's got Vivian Campbell, this hot new kid, and he comes out just blazing he's a great guitar player. I don't like him, and I'll say this all the time. I don't like him, but I love his guitar playing on those first two Dio albums a lot. So I made notes not to go off on tangents. Vocals, obviously, they're soaring melodic, but he's not giving up any power in this song as far as Dio goes. But the solo on this it's energetic and it's very, fast tempo. He's shredding on this, but he doesn't get sloppy and he doesn't get redundant. Everything is perfect, precise, and every note to that lead falls in right on top of the rhythm, right where it should be. He's a class act when it comes to placing these leads in these Dio songs. I'll give him that all day. But I guess another thing I really like about this, and you and I, we love Dio. A lot of people love Dio, But a lot of people who even do like Dio will say, oh, you know, he's into the demons and wizards and Dungeons and Dragons. But really, with this song, yes, he does sing about things from medieval time period, from, you know, mystical ancient time periods, but it's just symbolism for universal themes that he's trying to bring to the masses. And like in this song, when he says he cries out for magic, he's not talking about some dork with a hat pulling a rabbit out or a witch dropping toadstools in a cauldron. And I think this is emblematic of his entire career. He is crying out for magic, but the magic really is, it's something that we have lost as modern humans because we don't have a connection with the natural world like we used to. And that magic is, you know, a sense of connection to the natural world and a sense of awe. We don't have that anymore because we live in a scientific world. Everything is, you know, mapped down to the, you know, the final genome. On there's no mystery left. But I believe that he thinks that there should be, and there is, but you just have to dig deep for it. And that's what he did throughout his whole career. I may have learned his career backwards from Dio to Sabbath and then Rainbow, but if you look back, you'll find these themes throughout.
Yeah.
So I think he's a good lyricist and an excellent songwriter.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever get the impression at any time on any album, on any song of his, that the lyrics to that song were put together really quickly? Not really.
No.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of other bands you can listen to and you're like, it sounds like they, you know, hand wrote that on the back of a napkin and here's the lyrics, let's just do the song. I never got that impression from Ronnie on any of his albums. There's always a lot of thought behind every single song. Every single song has a purpose. The message has a purpose. And, you know, that's something to be, you know, for him to be proud of. And as fans to, you know, really revel in, I think. Testament to the guy's genius for me. So good choice. I mean, you know, you talk about, I got to mention again, Vivian Campbell's guitar solos, especially on that first album, are amazing. And they're everything is so well placed. And that solo to Rainbow in the Dark is one of the best and most memorable of the 80s, I think. Great solo. He's such a tasty guitar player, you know, whether you like Vivian or not, whatever. But I've always loved his playing, and that first album especially, classic stuff. All right, my number 10. You know, it's funny because looking at my list, you know, all these songs come from just like a handful of albums, and I'll use a classic line from Chris Allo. It's like, you know what? These are my picks. They're my favorites. I don't give a fuck. These are the ones I'm going to go with, right? Because when you're going with your gut and you're picking your favorites, you got to pick your favorites. So my number 10 is from this album right here, which also happens to be the shirt I'm wearing. Die Young. Great song, great heavy song. Just one of those songs that just kind of kicks you in the gut. Love Tony's just bluesy little intro solo there. Then the big riffs come in, that spooky kind of synth piece, that section that comes in later in the song. Ronnie's just amazing gutsy vocals on it. It's always been one of my favorite songs from this album, and this album means like so much to me. I could have picked any number of songs from this album, and I still might do that as we get through. But yeah, it's always been, you know, usually, especially on the first two Sabbath albums that he worked on, there are, you know, like 2 or 3 like real favorite tracks from each of the albums for me. And Die Young has always been one of the top 2 or 3 on this album for me. And it's a song that I think as I get older, I appreciate even more. And, you know, again, one of those songs where you listen to it and it just makes you miss this guy even more, you know, and that's the thing. And I think that for me is a lot of these songs that I'm going to talk about. When I listen to them, I've just missed this guy. Then I get emotional. I'm already doing it now and I need to stop. But yeah, it's just, there's just something really special about this dude. Just his voice, his lyrics, his stage presence. I never met him, but everybody who I know who has met him has stated what a wonderful human being he was. And you could just kind of tell, you know. So yeah, Die Young is my number 10 from Heaven and Hell. Back to you.
That's a great choice. Okay, so my number 9 is off Dehumanizer. And for me, it's the only reason to even own this album, quite frankly. It's the song I. And I didn't like that. Back when it came out in the 90s, I really didn't get into that album at all. I've gotten into this song probably like in the last 10 years, and it's become one of my favorites. It's got, he starts with those clean 4 notes up, 4 notes down, Iommi, and you know what it is. And it's a good tone on his guitar. I've been told that I don't give Iommi enough credit. I don't give him enough credit on his lead playing because I don't think he's a great soloist, but I always give him good credit on his rhythm playing, or if he achieves good tone on a slower lead, which he is, very good at that. But anyway, so you've got, what the song is when it starts, but when the song proper starts, it's absolutely crushing. I mean, that riff is crushing. It is dark, it is oppressive, and it's constant. I know you like comic books, and I know you like Juggernaut. That is what this song is. This song is a juggernaut. It is unstoppable, unrelenting.
It's so heavy. Yeah.
Unalterable. And I mean, it's just sheer force. And not just the guitar work. I picked this song. There are technically better songs than this that technically could have been on my top 10, but this is an unusual song because Dio's vocals on this, he never sings like this on any other song. He's always powerful. He can go from an angel to a demon, but he's always got power. But this song, it's not singing, it's purging. It's like he's purging his soul. And you'd probably laugh if you were riding around in a car with me, but I sing this stuff out loud, even though I can't sing. I can't sing at all. I sing worse than Ace Frehley. But I love to sing, so I do it anyway. I love singing these lyrics. It makes me feel powerful. But so I really like this song. And it has an acceptable solo for him. It doesn't get too boring, the Iommi solo later in the song. As far as the meaning of the song, I've thought about this a lot. It's, this title's I, and then he, repeatedly repeats every single verse starts with I this, I that, and you're never doing anything good. You're always doing something bad. He does make slight biblical references when he refers to a holy outlaw, which would be Satan. But I don't think the song is really religious in nature. I think just his focus on I is focus on the human psyche and id and how greedy and, you're not, there's no ego. There's certainly no super ego to keep it in check. It's just all id. And the lyrics match perfectly with the song. So the only thing I hate about this song, because it sounds so gimmicky, like something Ozzy would do, is at the very end where he has that no. I hate that part. Do you know the part I'm talking about? The 3 no. I hate it. I don't know why they threw that in there, but criticism, you can love something and still criticize a little part of it. Doesn't that sound like something Ozzy would have done?
And did quite often.
Exactly. Yeah. Excuse me. I don't want to scream at you, but exactly. Other than that, I have no complaints with this song.
Yeah, that's Dio's angry song, man. He just he's like coming on with a vengeance in that song. I love my favorite song off of Dehumanizer, and that's such a heavy album. All right. Well, I'm gonna go to one of my favorite albums of all time, Rainbow Rising. Light in the Black. Cozy Powell, Jimmy Bain, Tony Carey, Richie Blackmore, Ronnie James Dio, Martin Birch producing. I mean, this album is amazing. And quite frankly, side 2 of this album, Stargazer and Light in the Black, probably one of my favorite album sides of all time. And Light in the Black to me is just kind of like part 2 of Stargazer. It's a bit different though, right? It's not quite as big and epic sounding. It's more kind of like that, kind of like an early power metal sound. You got the driving guitar riff, you got Cozy's great drums in the beginning, you got Dio just totally killing it behind the microphone, the blazing Tony Carey synth solo, then Blackmore comes in and does his thing. It's just such a magical song. And you know, the whole progression that the, you know, it's just amazing stuff. And it's so progressive. It's also like early power metal at its finest. I mean, this album to me is like the roots of early progressive metal and power metal all can be found on this album. And it's 8 minutes that goes by so quickly. And it's just probably my favorite vocal performance by Ronnie from an album perspective is probably this album right here. I just love it, and it's just such a great song, and for me, only overshadowed by another song on this album, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So yeah, and here, you know, Ronnie's kind of trademark lyrics not quite yet fully developed like we would know coming up, but still there's lots of really interesting themes running throughout these songs, and specifically this tune and with Stargazer as well. So I think you kind of get Ronnie's expert lyrical skills just starting to maybe peak, but not quite yet. I think with the next couple albums you really see coming to fruition. But yeah, great song. Light in the Black, my number 9.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that later too. My number 8 is back to the Holy Diver album. It is Invisible, and always been one of my favorite songs off of that album. It's another heavy, hard. It's an angry sounding song, but it's not an angry song in my opinion. But it has that clean, beautiful, soft. It's formulaic. A lot of the songs I picked, I learned that he has a formula, and it works with me because many of my songs are the ones that start off, you know, very slow and soft, and then the hammer comes down. So this song has that clean pick through part, the tasteful little lead licks by Campbell over it. It's a great intro. And then you have that really soft singing by Dio. And he mentions the chalice of the soul in that. And I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to what he's saying in that intro, but it actually applies to the 3 major sections of the song. And like in this one, now this is just my opinion, and everyone can think a song is about whatever they think it's about, but that chalice of the soul, he's not talking about like necessarily a religious chalice or something from Arthurian legend. That predates that, back to the Kabbalah, and that's ancient mysticism. Because if you pay attention to what he says further in those 3 sections where he's talking about that young woman, that 18-year-old boy or so, and then himself in the 3rd section, they all basically find themselves in a really bad situation, and they've got to take action to get out of it. That's the only way you're going to progress in life. And that's the moral of the story. But that does relate to that chalice of the soul, because in the Kabbalah, you've basically got to have commitment, conviction, and courage to take action, to step away. I'm not Jewish, but there's a lot of knowledge that can be found in the Kabbalah, but they don't technically call it lighting your soul on fire. It would be more like an ignited soul. But when you can accomplish those things and ignite your soul, that's when you get enlightened and have personal power. And so it all relates. Again, you may just overlook it and just think, oh, that sounds cool, but he's saying something if you pay attention. But as far as the music goes on this one, it's great. The solo on this song, he has Campbell's playing that circular winding solo that's speeding up. And I mean, I've listened to this song, I know, thousands of times. And I listen and I think, okay, he's gonna stumble, and one of those notes is gonna come down and it's not gonna be on time, but it's always on time. Yeah. And I've seen him pull it off live on time. So he's really good on this album. And I'll even mention Vinny Appice on this one. Right before that 3rd story about Dio growing up, you know, well, I grew up quick. There's a huge pregnant pause, and then the drums just come down fast and they snap in, and it's you know, they're thunderous and they snap in, and it's really good drum playing. I don't like there's a certain snare sound on Holy Diver that I don't like. I see a lot of critics say, oh, that's great. Then he has such a militant snare sound. And no, it's too high pitched and somebody must be deaf. In my opinion, somebody must have been deaf. He's a great player. Why that snare sounds so high pitched, I don't know. He's doing those what do you call them, rolls? I don't know much about drums. And I don't know if you have to tune a drum head. I have no idea. Maybe they tuned it up too high, but he's doing his rolls really fast. It almost sounds like a rubber band coming undone. Great player, but it's too high pitched. That whole album is, the production, I guess, is just a little bit mid-rangey compared to a lot of other Dio albums. But you can adjust that on your stereo.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would have been my number 8, I suppose.
I love that song as well. That's a good one. That whole album is great. That whole album is great. All right, my number 8. On a small world west of wonder, sign of the Southern Cross. Big, doomy, epic. I don't know what I like more about this song. Iommi's just absolutely monolithic riffing, or Ronnie's just tremendous vocal. I mean, it's so heavy. I almost everybody that I know who's a Sabbath fan, and is specifically a fan of this album, always points to that song as one of their favorites. And it's that way for a reason. It's just absolutely crushing. It's so just evil sounding, and just like you could just kind of picture yourself sitting out in this, like, this after like a war, after like a nuclear holocaust, right? And just like all there is this mist floating around and crumbled buildings and everything like that. And just the whole song just has this apocalyptic, just crushing, devastating sound to it. It's just classic Dio era Sabbath. I just absolutely love it. The lyrics are very kind of mysterious and just dark and menacing. Like I said, Tony's guitar tone is just absolutely perfectly creates this mood that you're looking for. And I think just Dio's vocals are just absolutely exquisite here. And he's snarling, but he's not, over the top. And it's just, I can always picture Dio on the first couple Sabbath tours, because I saw them on this tour. He always did this kind of like, he would like kind of crouch down when he would sing stuff like this. And even if you never saw him live, with this band, with Sabbath singing this song, you can just picture him, somewhere, nowhere on. He's just like, he's looking around and just peering, and it's just, man, it's just so cool, so awesome. So yeah, that's my number 8. Sign of the Southern Cross. Could have even been higher, but again, the order for me doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that these songs have to be on this list. That's what really matters to me. So back to you.
That's a great song, and that's one song. Admittedly, I have no idea what that song is about. I know the Southern Cross is a constellation, and although I've never seen it in person, I think it looks like an inverted cross or something maybe. I don't know what that song's about, but it's a great song. And I saw Dio, one of the last times was on the Metal Masters tour, and they did that song live. And there was this guy, really long hair, full out denim. They were playing that song, and he was like, maybe a couple feet in front of me. The man was in a trance. He was in a trance. I was afraid he was going to fall over on me. He was just like, he was insane. I felt happy for him, and it was a great performance, but it does have that effect on you. You're right.
Yeah. It's intoxicating in a really good way. Yeah.
Okay. So my number 7, you've already mentioned it. It's off of Heaven and Hell. It is by Black Sabbath. It is Die Young. That's a great song. I scared my dog to death one time. I had my MP3 player on, and I was listening to this, doing yard work, and it just came on when I came in to get ice water. And the first couple of lines, gather the wind, and I'm like going like this in the kitchen to my little dog, and his eyes I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, probably like a banshee. His eyes got this big, and he ran into the other room. I had to go get him. I felt so bad, but it has this effect on me.
Yeah.
It's great. Again, Dio's lyrics working with the natural elements. who sings like that? Gather the wind, chain the sun. I mean, you have to do these things. You're not copying him. It's like it just makes you have to. I saw
You
you.
want to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I saw you on one of your shows. You were talking about Dio, and I don't. It might have been Shame on the Night. I can't remember what it was, but you raised your hand up out of the camera, and then you pulled it down, and I was like, "That's right. He's pulling down the power." You know, I'm such a dork, but I don't want to be friends with anybody who isn't a dork like that. You know, that's how I feel. I love it so much.
I think people who love this guy, that they just, you don't even think about it. You just do it, right? It's like, I'm trying to remember the show you're talking about.
That's right.
And I don't, but I could just
But
picture myself, shame on the night. I could just picture myself doing it because I've probably done it hundreds of times in my life, right? Yeah.
yeah, so this is another thing Dio does in a lot of the songs I like is he's issuing a warning. It's like a sage. He's a sage, and he's issuing a warning to people, someone young or someone who's impressionable, to die young. It's not a song about how glorious it is to die young. It's exactly the opposite, about the dangers.
Yeah.
You know, the big lie is, you know, when he says live for today, tomorrow never comes. That's the big lie, because tomorrow will come and you'll be dead, and you'll have wasted a life. So it's a great, lyrically, a great message on the song. This one, I don't mind Iommi's playing too much, but I haven't mentioned Geezer. You know, he's playing some fast bass lines on this. And when Iommi gets a little bit boring, where he's just like he's spinning around like a hurricane in the mid-Atlantic that's caught up in a cold front. You know, I guess some people would call it economy of movement, where he's just hitting the same notes back and forth. Kind of an Ace Frehley does the same thing. But I don't like that type of playing. But Geezer, that bass line, he's dragging Iommi along through the song so that you don't notice it as much. You don't get as bored. And Geezer deserves some credit for that. He does that on a lot of these songs, whether it's a slow bass line that's just really interesting or a fast bass line like this. And he is a good bass player. This is a fast bass line, and he is not sloppy at all. He's very articulate. Every time I've seen them live, he played well, you know, just as well as the album. He's no slouch.
No, Geezer's pretty tremendous. I don't think Geezer gets enough credit for being the great bass player that he is. And I think both him and Iommi really kicked themselves up a notch for this album, because, you know, it was going into the 80s, and this was a different Black Sabbath, and you know, metal was changing, and I give them both credit for kind of upping the ante on this album.
Yeah, that was my number 7.
Cool.
Over to you.
My number 7, we're going to go to this album. Title track. I absolutely love Holy Diver. Yeah, I love this entire album, and I could pick a whole bunch of songs from this album, but my favorite has always been the title track. And, you know, you talk about Vivian Campbell's like perfect solos on this album. I absolutely adore his solo on this song. And again, it's perfectly stated, and it builds and builds in intensity, and that's the way a good guitar solo should be. And I've said this a million times, but when you can hum and remember, even if you don't have to play guitar, but when you know every note, you can sing and hum every note to a guitar solo, that's a really good guitar solo. That's a memorable guitar solo. And I think specifically in this song, the guitar solo is great. The riffs are terrific. Ronnie's vocals are absolutely amazing. And, you know, Holy Diver for me is one of those anthems where back in the old days, can't do it anymore, when you go see the Dio band play live, that's one of the 2 or 3 songs that you must hear at every show and sing every single word along to it. It's such an amazing heavy metal anthem from, God, what year was this again? 1984, right? 83, 84, 83, something like that. You know, I remember being, you know, in high school, and remember going, specifically, and I remember the story. My parents took us down to the Jersey Shore for a week for vacation, and Dio was playing at the local civic center here. And the concert was the day we got back. And I remember I got like really bad sunburn, and I had like blisters all over my body and everything. Like I was totally out in the sun too much, but I said, you know what? I don't care. And how much pain I'm in, how uncomfortable I am. I had all this, the lotion slopped all over me. My parents drove me down there, dropped me off. I went and enjoyed the show. It was amazing. They played all the songs I wanted to hear. And I was like, I don't care. And how much misery I'm in, I'm going to enjoy Dio and the band this night. And so, yeah, Holy Diver. That's my number 7.
That's a classic. That's the first song I ever heard by Dio, and I've been hooked ever since. So, okay, so my number 6 is back to Black Sabbath. It's Falling Off the Edge of the World. You know how you picked Sign of the Southern Cross? Everybody always picks one of these 2 songs, and I've always liked this one a little better because it's I like the way it's broken almost perfectly evenly into 2 parts. And this song, I always think, oh, must be like an 8-minute song. It's not. On the studio, it's like a 5-minute song, and they give almost the first 2.5 minutes is like really slow. So you've got the nice, slow, clean, lamenting intro where he's feeling it's dissatisfaction, out of place, out of sorts, the lyrics. And then, as if that's not slow enough, then comes in Iommi with that. It's like, it's slow, it's heavy, it's doomy. I guess I'm not into doom rock or doom metal or whatever at all. I don't know one doom metal band, but to me, that sounds like doom to me. And I like that. It's like, it's not really just doomy. It's a textbook dirge. If you know dirge, it's a dirge what he's playing.
Killer riff. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
It's a slow crush on your soul. But then the tempo increases. You've got full speed, and I'll give credit to Iommi since I'm mean to him sometimes. When the tempo comes in full speed, it's a mesmerizing rhythm, and it's not just the way you're going, normal back and forth. It's a circular metal rhythm where you're getting some spin on your head when you listen to that song. The part that goes down, 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 that part. I sound like such a nerd when I make these noises, but anyway, it's a great song. And it's not really a depressing song. It starts off, kind of defeatist sounding, but then once that tempo kicks in and he starts singing Never, the part, it's like, I feel like he's talking not just about him being out of sorts and out of place in time, but the world itself perhaps moving in the wrong direction. And the lyrics in the second half of the song, they're commanding, they're energetic, and they're defiant. It's as though he's defying that initial defeatism. And he's saying, yes, we may be falling off the edge of the world into this new uncharted territory, but we're forced to go this way, and we're going to do it with strength, and maybe we can improve as people, maybe the world can improve. It's a good message, good song. Nicely done drum fills by Vinny Appice. And Pete, do you know, why does his brother call himself Carmine Appice and Vinny calls himself Carmine Appice? I don't know why. Do you?
Apparently Carmine many years ago decided that he didn't want everybody to constantly mispronounce his name. So, because apparently, I'm Italian, it should be Appice, usually is the way it should be traditionally said, I would assume. Appice, I think, also is a little more easy on the ears and easier for people to say. But I guess Carmine didn't want people to constantly screw up the pronunciation of the name. So he said, you know what, just pronounce it the way it's spelled, Appice.
Okay.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, but it is kind of ridiculous that him and his brother, who are really close and they do a lot of stuff together, and they both pronounce their last names differently. It's ridiculous, but I don't know. Carmine is a hoot, by the way. I've spoken to both those guys, and they're interesting characters. And well, that's a story for a whole other day. He's got so many stories to tell. But yeah, it would make sense that they would both pronounce their names the same way. But apparently, Carmine's been doing it that way for so long that he just continues. So I don't know. Who knows? But apparently, the authentic Italian pronunciation is supposed to be apice, apice, something like that. So not apice, not a piece, apice, whatever. Who knows? That's why I just call them Carmine and Vinny.
They're both great players.
Yeah, they are. That they are. You know, it's funny. Falling off the edge for me. Falling off the edge of the world and Sign of the Southern Cross are like two peas in a pod on that album. In a similar way that Light in the Black and Stargazer are on Rainbow Rising. I have this weird connection, or I make this weird connection between all four songs. Not, you know, one Sabbath, one Rainbow, obviously, but I always kind of lump them together for whatever reason. But unfortunately, on that album, they don't follow each other, which would have been even cooler, but they don't. So anyway, great pick. I love that song. Yeah, it didn't make my list, unfortunately, but I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, so I'm going to go my number 6. I'm going to go to this album here. And originally this, you know, I kind of screwed around with my order many, many times over the last couple of days. And I just said, all right, you know, in the end, it doesn't really matter where it winds up. It's on the list, like I said before, but I gotta have Gates of Babylon on here. I mean, it's just, it's just such a magical, magical song. And I think, you know, we talked earlier about Dio's lyric creation, his muse really starting to hit home. I think that with this song and a couple others on this album, the Ronnie James Dio lyricist that we really got to know and love, starting with Heaven and Hell, started on this album. I think fully. You heard some of it on Rising, but I think it's this album where that really came out. And I think Gates of Babylon is just an absolutely mystical, majestic, you know, I don't know, what do you call it? It's hard rock, it's metal, it's proggy, it's, you know, it's got all these great, you know, Richie created all these great musical passages on here, but, you know, you got all these guys just working to create this slice of magic, just under 7 minutes long. And I think like Ronnie's vocals on here are just so, I don't even know what the word is. It's just, amazing is too easy. I'm looking for a more dynamic word, but I can't really spit it out here. But I think Gates of Babylon to me is another one of those Rainbow kind of epic songs that, you know, alongside Light in the Black and Stargazer, and, you know, maybe Catch the Rainbow, that are just absolutely pure, magical, heavy rock music that it just doesn't get much more grandiose. That's the word I was looking for. Gates of Babylon is just absolutely grandiose and just beautiful, musically, lyrically, vocally, and the song's just like it's just like this weaving snake. You know, you just picture. I know they got the song, you know, Snake Charmer and all that kind of stuff, but like Gates of Babylon to me just has that like these little Middle Eastern things going on, and it's just so amazing. I don't know. I could talk all day about some of these old Rainbow songs because they mean so much to me. But yeah, Gates of Babylon for me is another classic Rainbow epic song that is just classic Ronnie James Dio.
That's, I won't tell you what order, but obviously I'm going to be picking that song. I wasn't going to give you any of my adjectives, and you already stole my snake-like, but I've always thought that
That's
song
what it is. I mean,
serpentine. It has a meandering serpentine.
Yeah,
It's
serpentine. That's the one. Yeah, that's it.
And it's Blackmore who brings that to the song.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna. You can't have any of my adjectives. Okay. So, does that make this my number 4?
Number 5.
I've lost count.
Number 5.
Number 5. Okay, my number 5 is from. It is the title track from Dio's Last in Line. Now, this is the song that I think Vivian Campbell played his best guitar solo ever in his whole life. I don't care what the man does for the rest of his life, he will never top the solo in this song. But although he was good on, you know, Holy Diver as well. This video, as with every single Dio video, is the most awful piece of cinematography I've ever seen in my life. I don't know why his videos were so awful. He had such great music, such a great band. Why couldn't they just get on a stage, wear normal black and denim, play their music, and have been like, yeah, it's like being at the concert. But you've got Dio with this ridiculous Egyptian garb, and then he's got like the Borg, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's the Phantasm guy, the guy who directed Phantasm, directed his video. Did you know that? I didn't know that until recently. I had no idea.
Don Cascarelli.
That's it. That's his name. Yep. But it's not the worst Dio video. They're all bad.
Yeah, no, they
But,
all are pretty bad.
but I like this song a lot. It again, it's that formula I like that has the clean, pick through guitar with some tasteful little licks over it, starts the song, and then he'll have some clean, soft, angelic intro vocals, and then the last word, he does this on a lot of them, like with this song and one I'll talk about later. It's the last word of the clean intro. He changes, like on this one, it's home. When he gets to that, we are coming, and it's like he's dropping that hammer again. He does such a good job with that, because it makes it so much more impactful, and the rest of the song more impactful, because he set you up with this clean, sweet intro. So when it gets hard, it feels even harder. It's very good. This one shows his vocal range from the most delicate to the hardest that he can sing. And there's a couple of songs that do this. This is one. But back to that solo. I mean, I can't say enough about Dio singing in this. It's great. But sometimes what makes Dio shine is the musicians around him. And this solo, I know you know the one I'm talking about. It is perfect. It has linear motion from here all the way to here. You're never bored. He builds it to a crescendo. It's precise. Everything matches, not a note out of place. But he doesn't lose. And I mean, he's shredding on it too. Some of it's really fast. But what I remember most about it is those exquisite bends. His bends in that solo are perfect. And he's bending, he's holding the bend, and he's releasing it perfectly. So it has a lot of emotion, but a lot of speed too. And you don't find that a lot. Like with Yngwie, yeah, the guy can play 1,000,000 miles an hour, but only on certain songs, like maybe Black Star off of Rising, you've got the emotion and the speed. On a lot of them, it's just kind of boring. Like, yeah, it's great that you can do that, but so what? But not with this. This is really fast and really emotional when it slows down. So that's a great compliment for Vivian Campbell. And I don't know, there are a lot of religious overtones in this song about being the last in line. I guess that relates to Christianity, Judgment Day. But I don't really think this song is about religion. I think he's basically just saying that we're all born into this world and we're going to have choices to make. It's kind of an existential message where you're going to be judged, but it's the choices that you make in life that are important based on your own standards and standards that we can all agree upon, about being decent human beings. So it's a good message, and it's musically a great, great song.
I love it too. And that solo, I always talk about slow burn solos. That's a perfect example of it. And yeah, Ronnie's vocal is just great. You may never, 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 never come home. It's great, great stuff. I love it. And again, that's like, to me, that is like the sibling to the title track from the first album. There again, two peas in a pod. I mean, Ronnie, it seems like Ronnie's been involved in a lot of these like kind of like epic songs, because Last in Line is an epic track, not necessarily length, but it's just an epic sounding song. And I think he has just historically throughout his career, regardless of what band he's in, there are these songs, these epic pieces that are almost like connected. We've already talked now about 6 of them, right? Yeah, great stuff. Love it. That's a great choice. Great choice. All right, it's number 5. I had to have this on my list. I actually like it better on the live on stage album, but I got to go with Man on a Silver Mountain. it's just, to me, a classic heavy rock, hard rock song from this time period. It's another example of just a classic Blackmore riff. You know, Blackmore is my favorite guitar player of all time. The guy cranked out so many memorable riffs in his career, specifically in the, you know, the 70s and the 80s. But, you know, Man on a Silver Mountain, it's just, I love Ronnie's vocal on it. Like I said, I like the version on the live album a little bit better. I think the studio version is a little more sedate, but still it's got all the elements that I love. The vocal's great. It's another one of those, you know, you sing it, you hear it, and you throw the fist in the air, you get the air guitar going, and I just love it. Classic Rainbow song, classic Dio song, classic Blackmore song, and it's my number 5.
Yeah, that's definitely a classic. My husband and I have a friend who's a really good guitar player, and he always brings up with that song. He says they always screw it up live because they play it too fast. He's like, it needs to be as slow as it was on the album. And he said, because that's where the power is. And when you speed it up, you lose some of that power. But do you feel that way? Do you prefer the live or the studio?
Well, I've seen the Dio band play that song. I've seen Dio Disciples band play that song. I've heard many Rainbow live versions from, you know, this time period. Obviously, I still think, see, the on-stage version is a little bit faster than the album, not tremendously so. And for me, I think that really works. And I think I totally see where your husband is coming from, though, or your friend. Because it's really slow on this album. It's like, you know, dun, 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 dun. On the live album, it's dun, 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 dun. So it's almost like they, you know, the live version on the live on stage album is like the speed metal version of the song from here. It's almost like, kind of also like if you listen to like Smoke on the Water off of Machine Head, and then you listen to Smoke on the Water on the Made in Japan album, it's pretty sped up on that as well. So I kind of get what you're saying. I mean, I love the version on here, obviously. I just, I kind of dig that live version. But I've seen, like I said, I've seen that song performed live many times, and I've seen it performed all sorts of different ways. It's really slow, really fast. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you like, right? It's all good. It's all great, actually. But it's a great album. I mean, it's a great song. I mean, it's kick-ass. Kick-ass. It's like a classic from that era. You know.
Okay, well, that was a good choice. I'm down to my number 4. This is a Black Sabbath song, and it is called "Children of the Sea," and it's a great song. I've always liked this song. It's I guess some people would call it a plotter because it's the tempo is a little mid to low tempo. It's not extremely slow, but it's not like Neon Nights or something. And this is one song that I actually heard Ronnie James Dio say, this is a song about ecology. And we wrote it a long time ago, but nobody listened to us. And now the world is, you know, like the environment's worse than ever. And I was like, no, Ronnie, that's not what that song is about, because I have never thought, you know, how he says, you can decide what the song's about. Well, I had already decided what that song was about, and it wasn't ecology. But you don't often hear him say what his songs are about.
Right.
I've always thought this song was about the myth of the destruction of Atlantis. You know, the ancient civilization of Atlantis, the children of the sea.
Yeah.
We're talking about a cataclysmic end, mountains shaking, losing the sun. But when he said that he wrote it about ecology, he's predicting that those things will happen to us, is what he's basically predicting. So I can see where he's coming from, but there's just too many similarities to that Atlantis myth. Like with them being able to do certain things before there was science to do it. A lot of conspiracy nuts like to say that, you know, aliens intervened and gave them special powers so they could build. You should get Carmine a piece on here. He wanted to talk about stuff like that with you, but you wouldn't let him, Pete.
Right.
And I said, let him.
Like, no, Carmine, that's for another time. Yeah, not this show.
But anyway, so Dio says it's about ecology. I think it's about Atlantis. I think it's a great song either way. And it's that formula again. You got the slow, clean, you're picking through chords, and then there's some nice tasteful licks by Iommi above that intro, the clean pick. Really tasteful sound on his part. And then it's another one of those things where he's got the slow intro vocals, and when he gets to that last word, sky, he's like pounding it home. He does that all the time, and I'm a sucker for it. I love it.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say about this, because I'm sure I'm taking up a lot of your time, is quickly, it does have an interesting percussive part where you really only hear it a lot with headphones, but Vinny uses wind chimes. When it breaks in the middle to start over, the song basically starts over. He uses wind chimes. Do you ever notice that? You can hear him.
That's actually that's Bill Ward on that album. That's probably
oh my god. I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry I said that. I'm talking about
because Bill does all those kind of little things. I mean,
well, it sounds really good.
Yeah.
And then the bass line on this one is another one where it's too slow to be a gallop. The notes are too far apart to be like a lope. And there's this word called a lollop, and it's not a musical term, but if you've ever had a basset hound and watched like a puppy basset hound learn how to run, their ears are too long. So they're trying to take these short little gallops, but they don't know what to do with their head or neck. So they trip on their ears. So when you think of a lollop, it's really supposed to be something that's clumsy. But that is exactly what this bass line is like. And many of his bass lines, it's the tempo, and it's got it's a strange tempo, but he pulls Iommi along with it and creates all this interest. But Geezer doesn't sound clumsy at all. It's not a clumsy bass line. So he does a good job on this song as well. The whole band.
It's a legendary song.
Mm-hmm.
It's so melodic, so memorable. Oh, they say that it's over. I mean, amazing. And of course, that song spawns "Look Out," right? I mean,
God, yes.
How legendary is that, right?
I almost killed myself doing that once. I was on a ladder, Pete, working on my house, and my dog was walking down in the garden, and I had my MP3 player on. It got to that part, and so I throw out the Maloik at the dog saying, "Look out," and I almost fell off the ladder. I would have killed myself.
Yeah, you would have.
But I would have died happy. But that's another one of those things where you got to do it. You have to, it physically affects you.
Yeah.
My God, when he says the word black in that song at the end, when he's doing his lookouts, and he's like, black. The word black has never been uttered blacker in the history of mankind than on that song.
I know, right?
Excellent song.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a classic from a classic album. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of classics, if you listen to Fools, the Mob Rules. I love Mob Rules. It's just such a killer barn burner of a song with a rampaging riff, a rampaging solo from Tony, and Ronnie just sounds venomous. And it's always been one of my favorite songs to hear from the band live. Always loved it. And that whole creepy, like what is it, E50-150, that the synth thing beforehand leading into that riff, it's just amazing. And then Ronnie's all, "Oh, come on." I mean, it's just, this is metal. All right. This is and I remember being a kid when this album came out and just like love this song. For me, my whole world was Black Sabbath with Dio for a number of years. And I remember how devastated I was when I heard that he was no longer in the band. And, back then there was no internet or nothing, right? So you heard these things like weeks after they happened. And, but then of course, I found Ian Gillan was the new singer, and I was like, oh, well, that's cool, because I love Purple's my other favorite band, so this will work out fine. But I remember how crushed I was when Ronnie was no longer in the band. And I love that song. It's just absolutely so devastating, and cool to hear that in the heavy metal animated film, right? Because that's where it first showed up. And then they kind of redid it a little bit for the album. But I just absolutely love it. And again, we talked earlier about that feeling of like devastation and an apocalyptic nature of a couple of the songs that we've already talked about. Well, totally on this song as well. And you know what? This album cover, I think, perfectly exemplifies the feel of this whole album. I think this is a great album cover, and it just, the vibe of everything that is Mob Rules, the entire album, I think is just, you can feel it just by looking at this cover. So yeah, title track to Mob Rules is my number 4.
That album cover, I didn't know who Black Sabbath was or who Dio was, but I saw that album in somebody's older brother's room, and it scared me. I was like,
It's creepy.
there's blood on that sheet. They're slaughtering people.
Oh, yeah.
It really scared me. I think I was like maybe 10 or 11. I don't know. I was impressionable enough that it frightened me. So, okay, good choice. So now my number 4, correct? No,
Great.
no, my number 3. Okay,
3.
number 3. And I'm sorry to focus so much on Dio, Black Sabbath, and then Rainbow. A lot of your fans love Elf. I read the comments sometimes and talk to them. They love Elf, and I never have. If I hate that honky tonk blues keyboard, the piano. You know that song?
Honky Tonk Boogie Rock. Yeah.
Oh God, I hate it. I don't want to hear Dio singing that at all. I don't want to hear him singing other people's covers. I don't even want to hear him singing Ozzy Sabbath. I don't want to hear it. It's a waste of his talent. And what's the pianist? Is his name Mickey Lee Soul?
Mickey Lee Soul, yeah.
Okay, see, I got all this stuff, Pete. I have the doo-wop. I have the Budweiser commercial. I am a completist. Do I listen to that garbage? No. And I don't mean to offend all my fellow viewers, because I know a lot of people really love that. There's a song called Nevermore by Elf. It's not bad.
That's a good song.
When that piano starts, I want to take the lid and just smash it down on that guy's finger so he pulls back nubs. I can't stand it. And I'm not a violent person. I don't know. I guess, was that really pop? I guess it must have been popular during the time, and Dio just fell into that music.
I don't know. I mean, Elf, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Elf either. I mean, I don't mind it. I very rarely listen to the Elf albums. I can appreciate them for what they are. But yeah, I don't know. You know what it is? Because I think most of us listen to Ronnie way after that, and we discover Elf after the fact, and you're like, okay, Rainbow albums, Sabbath albums, Dio albums, all this stuff, and then that, and it's just like this does not compute, right? I mean, it's just so to me, the Elf albums are like a weird curiosity in the history of Ronnie James Dio. And like I said, there are some fine songs on there. I get it. And I understand why some people really dig it. I don't hate it. It's okay. The Elf albums are okay. I very rarely listen to them though, because it's too, I don't mind bluesy rock stuff at all. I love bluesy rock stuff. But when there's all that honky tonk piano going on there, and I like piano, it's too much. It's like overload. I want to hear the guy sing. I want to hear the guitarist more, and all I hear is that dun, 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 and I'm just like, oh my god, enough already. So, but yeah, I totally see you with that.
It's
so
like
needless to say, I'm not
cartoon.
picking any Elf songs on my list either.
Okay, and I don't want to offend all the viewers, because I guarantee you, some people in their top 10, if they type them in, there's going to be some Elf songs.
There might, and that's fine. Hey, that's why we all hear these songs differently. I say it all the time. It's like, just because we have our favorites and we don't like some of those doesn't mean that someone else can't love some of those Elf songs, or even some of the latter period Dio stuff, which is fine too. But this is all about our favorite 10, and there are favorites for a reason, right? So
that's right.
It is what it is.
Okay, so my number 3 is back to the Holy Diver album. It is Don't Talk to Strangers. That is a masterpiece. Everybody knows Holy Diver, Rainbow in the Dark. Great, wonderful songs. Great. They're on both of our lists. But Don't Talk to Strangers, that's a class act right there. And it's that same formula. The clean, angelic intro. And the same thing when he gets to the last word, which is down, he makes the word go down as he sings it. And it's hard. You're hitting rock bottom when he's done singing that word down. So he does, like I said, he does that a lot. So anyway, this song is great. When the song starts, you've got that frantic frenzied riffing. The whole song is kind of got that, it creates anxiety, but it goes perfectly with the lyrics where he's telling you, don't do this, watch out for this, be careful of this. The title, Don't Talk to Strangers, the whole song is about things that you should watch out for. I'm giving you these warnings. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. It's great. It's a, you know, total up tempo song. And I think he was smart to choose Don't Talk to Strangers, because that is the ultimate fear in every human psyche. Because who told you that when you're growing up? Your parents. You talk to a stranger, they're going to throw you in the back of a van, and
Right.
God knows you'll be dead. They'll you know, they'll kidnap you. So it's a great song, great lyrically. And every time I've seen him do it live, he's got the energy. Even towards the end of his career, he had the energy to pull that. You always call them barnstormers. He has the energy. He still had the energy to pull that song off.
Yep.
At whatever age he was, pretty, you know, up there, close to my dad's age. I can't imagine my dad, you know, on stage like Ronnie James Dio. It's too funny. But some of these guys I love, they're only a couple of years different from my dad, and I think of my dad and, you know, a rocking chair. I mean, he's a hard, you know, he's a hard, tough man, but I can't see anyone Ronnie's age doing what Ronnie did. I just can't see it.
He was special. I mean, that's what it
He
comes down
was.
to, right? He was special.
And Vivian Campbell's lead on this, I think this is his second best lead of his whole career, only second to last in line. A wonderful lead, just wonderful, great song.
It's a great song. I'm very disappointed it didn't make my top 10. It's in my honorable mentions. I love it, and that just goes to show you how strong some of these other songs are, because that is a drop dead classic. I love Don't Talk to Strangers. It also is one of my favorite songs to hear the band play live when I did see the Dio band all those times. And yeah, I mean, Ronnie was singing that song amazingly up until the very end, I think. Yeah, great song. I love it. And what's great about Don't Talk to Strangers is I always talk about the light and shade, right? So he's doing these lovely, like, kind of whispered vocals in that song, and then you get the vengeful Ronnie, right? It's like all facets of his style, which is just you know, a testament to the range that he always had. So great choice. I mean, I love that choice, actually. I love it. Let's see, where am I? Number 3, right? Okay. Let's go back to this album, Kill the King. Love it. Again, the seeds of power metal in a song like that. And again, Ronnie's vocal, lyrics taking on that kind of style that we would come to see from him quite a bit in the years to follow. And this has got a great Blackmore riff, great guitar throughout this song. Cozy Powell's drumming, off the charts. Also, I happen to like Kill the King a little bit better on the live album. Interestingly enough, the live album came out before this. So, you know, for folks who are, you know, really into Rainbow at the time, you get this live and you're like, whoa, Kill the King. This is a great song. It's not on any of the albums that I have, but then they included it on this album. And it's just just a crushing track. You know, keyboards are great. The guitars are great. It's got all little solo spots and everything. Just a killer song. And Ronnie's vocals are so I did it again. See, I didn't even think about it, right? So forceful. I was like, but yeah, I love Kill the King. It's just a powerhouse Rainbow track. One of my all-time favorite Rainbow songs. And it's also one of my all-time favorite Ronnie James Dio songs, because number 3, that's pretty high up there. So back to you for number 2.
That's a great song, Pete. I love that one too. Okay, number 2 is off of the album you just had, Gates of Babylon. I love that song. And Rainbow is actually, aside from Elf and the elves and the electric elves and all that, Rainbow is the third band that I ever learned about Dio in. I learned, you know, backwards. And I love the Gates of Babylon. And I'm not a big keyboard person, but I love this keyboard player. When he sets that atmospheric stage, it doesn't bother me at all, because he's not obnoxious about it. And then I think the thing that I really like about this song is the bass and the rhythm guitar. It almost has this bouncing effect the whole song is like treading lightly. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a bounce, you're bouncing through the rhythm on this song, and they play so well together. Um, okay, when the vocals start, this is the thing I love second most about the song. When the vocals start and Ronnie says, "Look away from the sea, I can take you anywhere." He is, you were saying, what are his vocals like? It's like they're enticing you. I believe him. I believe him that he can take me anywhere. I know as soon as he says that, we're going on a trip through space and time, and I'm ready to
Actually,
go.
his hand is coming right through the speaker, waiting for you to grasp it, and he's going to bring you with him, right?
That's right. He's going to take us to the gates of Babylon. And so it's the lyrics are good in this one too, because you've got the ancient city of Babylon, symbolic of temptation and sin. And again, he's giving you that warning. He's saying all your desires, all the power you want, I'll make you all these promises, but at a price. You sleep with the devil will take you away. He's teaching you a lesson, and you're having so much fun, you don't even know you're learning something from him. This is great songwriting.
Yeah.
And I don't like Richie Blackmore either. I always badmouth him, but I love his playing on these Rainbow albums. I just think, what's like John Sykes. What's John Sykes doing? What's Richie Blackmore doing? Wasting his life away with this Renaissance fair stuff. But he can do what he wants. So anyway, I'm just saying, if you can make this type of music, why aren't you making this type of music? Not just to please me, but to please millions of people and yourself. You should still be making this kind of music. So like you said, the leads on this one, it's meandering. It's like a snake. And I don't use the word bombastic a lot, but on this one, he starts on that main lead. He starts with the Phrygian scale. That sounds like the Middle East. That's why it reminds you of a snake. So he's doing the Middle Eastern scales. Then he goes into this bombastic neoclassical part, and then back into the Middle Eastern scales, and he does the whole one solo, and he does it all where it is seamless and effortless, and it doesn't clash. And that's true talent.
Yeah.
True talent. And I didn't really realize this until I put this list together, but Blackmore and Dio, that's my favorite combination. Although I love the Campbell solos, I love the Iommi riff, rhythm riffs, but I love these two together more than anybody else. It's a shame that it couldn't have lasted for their lifetime.
I agree. I often think about, the Dio's pairing with various guitar players and which were the most successful or most beloved to me. And I got to say, I think that as much as I love him in Sabbath, those couple of Rainbow albums, him and Richie and Cozy, that's, to me, that was a band. That's a super, super, super band. And Blackmore and Dio working together just was unbelievable. And it's a real shame that, Richie just all of a sudden, because that's Richie though, he just all of a sudden said, okay, that was fun, but I want to do something a little different now. And you may not be the guy anymore. That's the way Blackmore rolled always. Well, yeah, he saw all the success bands like Foreigner were having, and he's like, oh, you know what? I want to play a little simpler music now, and I want to be on the radio and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. It's a shame though, because I think that, but then, if the world didn't happen the way it happened and history didn't happen the way it happened, we might have never gotten Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. So it's like, but I would have liked to have one more album. You know what? I will go on record saying I would sacrifice the Down to Earth Rainbow album with Graham Bonnet to get one more Rainbow album with Dio on it.
Yeah.
Right? And I love the Down to Earth album. Martin Popoff, if you're watching, sorry, buddy, but I would definitely sacrifice Down to Earth to get one more Dio album with Rainbow. I said it. There you go. All right. So my number 2, Sing Me a Song, You're a Sinner, Do Me a Wrong. Gotta have the title track to Heaven and Hell. Gotta have it. I don't even know what more to say about that I haven't already said about this song throughout my life. It's just it's slow, it's mysterious, it's majestic, it's gorgeous, it's heavy. It's another one of my favorite Ronnie James Dio vocals. It's got a great solo from Iommi. It's just atmospheric. The ending is just so amazing. And another one of those songs that if you ever got to see Sabbath with Ronnie, it's one of the highlights of the entire show. Everybody sings along. Tony does a big guitar solo. They come back for the big finale. It's just big, wonderful Black Sabbath and Heaven and Hell. It's just a beloved song for me, always has been. So that's my number 2.
A great choice. And I hate to tell you this, but my battery light just came on. It says I have 12% left. I don't know what to do, so I'm going to talk really fast.
All right, there you go.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
It's on my laptop. Okay, my number 1 is off of Rising, and this is not cheating, and I'll prove it. I'm picking the whole side too, because, and I already had this in my notes to prove that I'm not cheating. Stargazer and A Light in the Black is part 1 and part 2 of the same story. It's the story of the same slave. So it really is a missed opportunity for a mini concept album like 2112. Only one side is a true concept.
Right.
So Stargazer is my favorite of the 2, but I can't talk about one without the other, really.
It's hard, right? Yeah.
So anyway, that people always praise Cozy Powell for the intro drum work on that song, which is great, but I think his cymbal work is actually more interesting.
Cozy's just so great. I mean, yeah, he does everything well.
I don't know what type of cymbals he's using, or if it's some special effect in the studio, but the cymbals actually undulate. You can hear when you listen to them on headphones. Great work. And then, of course, you've got the haunting vocals, Ronnie telling the story of this poor slave. He's got a life of servitude and submission working for this wizard. And it's not really a wizard. The only thing, I got my plug. Sorry, Pete. The only thing I've ever heard Ronnie say about this song is Stargazer is about Egyptian times. It's not really about Egyptian times. The wizard that he's talking about is really a Chaldean. They were the original stargazers. And the tower that he's talking about, they didn't build these type of towers of stone like described in this song in Egypt. They built them in Babylonia and Chaldea specifically. So I'm not very religious, but if you read the Bible, every time you hear the word Chaldean, it's synonymous with a stargazer. So I've always thought and I'm sure he knew. He likes to be mysterious and doesn't tell you what he's writing about. So he's telling you this story, and the lead by Blackmore in this song perfectly mimics the story. If you've ever listened to that lead, the beginning of the lead proper, it's like this back and forth, this toil, and then you've got these elevating notes, and they just continue to elevate, and you're like, how much higher can they go? They just keep going and going, just like the wizard in the tower. And then when he gets to where you think he can't reach a higher note, or he's going to break a string, the special effect, yeah. And again, that's why they're so perfect together. Who else? I can't think of anyone offhand who the guitar player totally mirrors and mimics the entire vocal passage of the song. I can't think of anybody else. They played so well together. And then when that song is over and it goes into the second song on that side, you've got just the second half of the slave story where he's been let free. The wizard's dead. He doesn't know where to go. You'd think that the guy's going to go home and, do some farming, but he doesn't. He takes on the wizard's obsession, and he's reaching for the same star. He takes on that obsession. It's an interesting story. And that A Light in the Black, that one kind of has that Deep Purple vibe more than any other song. Well, not more than any other song, but quite a bit on that album, because you've got that bluesy vibe, and then you've got the keyboards and the guitar. It's an equitable sharing of, here, I'll do a little soloing, now you do a little, I'll do a little. It's equitable enough that that I can deal with the keyboards because I'm not a huge keyboard fan. So that's my number one. I think it's Stargazer's the masterpiece, but we have to mention the other one too, which is an excellent song.
Yep. Well, my number one is also Stargazer. Anybody watching probably anticipated that because Stargazer is one of my favorite songs of all time. And it's a masterpiece for all the reasons you've already stated. I don't think I need to say too much about it, other than it's a song and I've always loved it to death. But I think since Ronnie died, it's one of those songs that when I play, no matter where I am, I've actually done this a couple times at the gym, and I regret it every time. I regret it because I've actually broken down in tears at the gym with people all around, working out, listening to Stargazer, because it's just such an emotional song. It's so powerful, and it's got my favorite Ronnie James Dio vocal of all time. And I just I'm here, you know, whatever I'm doing, whether I'm lifting weights on a treadmill, whatever it is, on an elliptical, and the song comes on, and tears just start coming down my face, and I'm like, oh, this song just absolutely kills me every time I listen to it. So now it's like I when I know I want to listen to this album, and specifically both of those songs we just talked about, I try to make sure that I'm like by myself somewhere, because it's a safe thing to do, because I know the reaction I'm going to get. I just know it's going to happen. There's no way around it. So yeah, I love Stargazer. It's, you know, the lyrics are great. Musically, it's just a perfect song for me. It's heavy, but it's like majestically heavy, right? It's just, we talked about grandiose and bombastic. That is Stargazer. Richie plays a really different solo in that song, which I totally agree. Everything you said. I mean, it's funny how, and I'm a Blackmore fan, like I've said, but it's funny how his solos in a lot of the Rainbow and Deep Purple stuff that he did after, like in the 80s, were just kind of like, they weren't as perfectly crafted and as intelligent as some of this stuff. Like on this, like this is really different. We talked about Gates of Babylon before, and it's like he really put a lot of thought into creating these dazzling, well-constructed, but musically really interesting solos. Whereas, as much as I love like Difficult to Cure and Straight Between the Eyes and Perfect Strangers and all that stuff, I love that stuff. But I always got the impression in the 80s he got a little lazy with his solos and just would do these flashy things, hit the whammy bar and, you know, run his fingers up and down and just to make like these kind of flashy noises, which is cool. It's Blackmore. Hey, we love it. But there's an art to the guitar solos on some of this early Rainbow stuff and even on the early Deep Purple stuff. So, but that's a conversation for a whole other day. Stargazer is my number one. That was the easiest one on this whole list. I'm like, all right, well, I know my number one is. I put that in first. I'm like, all right, now the rest. So real quick, do you have any honorable mentions you want to just throw out there? Anything you didn't mention?
I had a lot, but this is not a song by any band he was in, but I do like that Stars song, the big compilation with.
I love it.
That's great. I love it. I love watching everybody do their part. I love listening and going, oh, that's so and so on the guitar. Oh, that's this guy doing this little vocal part. And I know you're supposed to like it because it's a humanitarian cause and all that, and that is great. Ronnie is a very generous person. But the thing that always impressed me the most is that he gave the best line in the whole song to somebody else. He gave it to that Paul Shortino guy.
Rough Cut, yeah.
When he gets to sing, and we all want to touch a rainbow. That's the best song. That's the best part of the whole song. And Ronnie could have easily taken it for himself, but he let somebody else sing it. I wanted to pick Heaven and Hell. I wanted to pick Egypt. The Chains Are On.
Oh,
God, I love that song.
Yeah.
I love it. I love Wishing Well. That's kind of like a rocker instead of a metal. I love that song. But I mean, I have a little MP3 stick that I put in a mechless player in my vehicle when I drive. It's my favorite Dio songs. There's 58 of them on there. So I went from that, and it killed me to get down to 16, and then it killed me more to get down to 10.
Yeah.
But
cool.
What are your ones you wanted to list?
Let's see. Catch the Rainbow, Children of the Sea, Don't Talk to Strangers, Last in Line. So a bunch of things we've already mentioned. Neon Nights, Tarot Woman. And then a really cool song from Long Live Rock and Roll that not a lot of people talk about, The Shed, Subtle. Subtle, the Shed Soul. I never understood the whole title of that, but I love that song. It's really heavy and just not one of the more popular songs. And I gotta give a shout out to Stand Up and Shout. I mean, one of the best album openers of all time, right? And there's a lot of really cool, Dio song, Lock Up the Wolves, and Strange Engines has some really cool songs and stuff like that. But for me, the cream of the crop is the first Rainbow album to Last in Line. I think are all that stuff in between. That for me is the stuff that means the most to me. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
Strange Highways is okay. It's not like Magica. That's the one album where somebody should have, and I love Ronnie James Dio, but when you're that great, you don't have a lot of people who will say to you, this sucks, start over. And all I can tell you, as much as I love him, if I would have been in that studio the day they finished that album, there would have been a mysterious studio fire that night. The master tapes would have been burnt to a crisp. And the next morning, I would have patted Ronnie on the shoulder and I would have said, Ronnie, everything happens for a reason. You were meant to do a concept album, but not this one. I would have handed him a copy of The Lord of the Rings. And I would have said, make me a solo album. A concept album. And that would have been excellent. And I would pay good money for that. And I think a lot of people would have.
Yeah, and Magica has a lot of fans. I get it. I've wanted to love Magica all these years. I don't hate it. It just doesn't do a lot for me, unfortunately. I know he put a lot of effort into it. I know Ronnie personally loved Magica and was all ready to do a sequel to it. I don't know. It just never grabbed me much. I want to love it. I don't. But you can't love everything. But in saying that, there's tons of people who watch this channel who love Magica, just like all those people who love Judas Priest, Nostradamus, and a lot of these other concept albums that I just don't really appreciate. I love lots of concept albums. I just don't like those two that much. But what are you gonna do? So anyway, there we have our top 10 favorite songs sung by the legendary Ronnie James Dio. A handful of honorable mentions. So we hope that everybody watching will type in their favorite 10 songs sung by the man himself, Mr. Dio. Remember, there's no right or wrong answers here. We all have our favorites, and that's the way it should be. And this guy's had such a long, illustrious career. There's plenty to choose from. So I want to thank all your fellow viewer, Dawn, for joining us here on this epic show. This was lots of fun talking about a guy that we love a lot. So it's never a bad time to talk about the magic that is Ronnie James Dio. So thanks, Dawn, for coming, and we really appreciate it. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube.
All the damn time.
Very good. I don't even have to ask anymore. Everybody's got it. Love it, love it, love it. So for Dawn the Chaldean, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.